Hard to believe, but Generation X, you're on the clock for retirement planning. Today, we're going to talk about some of the challenges that Gen X is facing heading into retirement and how you can get serious about preparing for the future. If you're between the ages of mid 40s to 60s, you're in that Gen X. We're going to talk about you next. Welcome into Perfect Game Retirement. Ben George with Ryan Ledden of Black Oak Asset Management. Great to see you again. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. But Ryan, this is a topic that hits close to home to us, right? Gen X. I don't feel like we're close to retirement, but we're in that window now where we have to begin taking retirement planning very serious.
Yes, we are in that window now. When I saw kind of the show topic and started kind of cringe when I read this, but I mean technically, we're at the very tail end of Generation X because it was right around 1980. I was born in 77, so technically I'm a Generation X, but I'm on the very, very latter end of Generation X. So yeah, in my mind, because one, I love what I do, and two, I'm like, I don't have any desire to, at least as I sit today, I have zero desire to just retire and be completely done. Will there be some scaling back? Sure, I'm sure. But the thought of this show topic again hits home. But then I'm like, okay, maybe there's some things I need to start thinking about. But at 47, I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't really need to think about these things right now because it's just not on my radar. I still have a kid who just finished elementary school and a daughter who is entering high school this year. So yeah, that's why the thought of me personally has not even come up on my radar, but it is for the people on the early end of Generation X. You're right behind boomers. So you're right there in your early 60s. So definitely something to be thinking about now.
Yeah, it's a bigger window. So there's some that, again, kind of fall into your boat where you're not really thinking about it a whole lot versus some that are maybe just a few years away from retirement. And it's an interesting generation, Ryan, because when you look at it, the baby boomers, they obviously have their challenges. Every generation has their challenges, but there's been a lot that has happened for Generation X over their lifetime. And this is the first 401k generation, right? We've seen multiple market crashes. We've seen housing go up to where it is now, education costs there are a lot of challenges to work through. And maybe, more so than ever, planning so important, but like yourself, a certified financial planner, you have to do a lot more work probably to make sure everybody's in a better position heading into retirement.
Yes, 100%. I mean, there are so many variables, I think, now with people going into retirement. And again, one of the biggest things is you said the 401k generation. The 401ks have replaced the pensions. Now, again, obviously, I know there's pensions out there. We work with a ton of pension employees, whether it's federal, state, local, whatever it may be. There are some private pensions out there, not many, but there are some private pensions. But companies started looking at, hey, we can put the burden more on the employee. Sure, we'll match them with something, but we don't want to be on the hook for the rest of their lives and have to pay them an income. So, but you're right. Interest rate changes in the 80s and like you said, housing, inflation and what it's done, the market crashes that we have had, the swings that we have seen. I do think there's going to be a retirement issue for a lot of people because a lot of that burden is on the individual or the household, and some have not planned ahead. Some have not prepared. And again, it's more to what I do is more than just picking the investment lineup. Yes, that's a big part of it. That's the part that everybody wants to talk about. But man, there are so much more variables involved when it comes to planning this stuff out, when it comes to estate, when it comes to insurance, when it comes to taxes, income, passive income, and then obviously the investments. It's just there's a lot to it. That's the part I love because the days of an advisor just being a stockbroker, those days are over for most advisors out there. You do need to be, you need to take a look at all this stuff, and that's what we do. And Generation X is definitely have a wild ride, which means good for advisors. I know there's robo and AI and all this stuff, but there's still a lot that we bring to the table. Especially people, if they have a more wild ride, they need more help.
Well, it's no surprise kind of when you start listing out a lot of the challenges that Gen X has faced financially. It's no surprise that more than 50% of Gen Xers, about half, right around half, say they're not financially prepared for retirement, which can be scary, right? Especially if you are 5 to 10 years out from retirement. But the good news is you do have some runway. So let's talk about some of the things you can control right now, Ryan. If you are, maybe you haven't taken retirement planning seriously, maybe you don't feel like you're in a great spot. What are some of the things you can be doing right now to really take control of your financial future?
Yeah, especially if you're in that 5 to 10 year gap. Hopefully you have, now again, there's the sandwich generation that we talked about on this show before, where you maybe have kids still lingering at home post college, and you got aging parents. I get there's maybe some bills that are difficult to get rid of, but some of those are just decisions that you need to make, especially with your graduated kid. They need to move on. They need to be on their own. But I get you may need to give help to your aging parents. But usually in your 50s and maybe early 60s are your highest income earning years. Generally speaking, that's a generality. That's not an exact rule, obviously, but you should be able to sock more money away. And retirement accounts allow you to put more money away because you are getting to those ages. And especially when you get to over the age of 50, you can do catch-up contributions in your IRAs and your 401k. So you need to know, you need to be aware of that. There are some people that are like, oh, I'm putting 15% in already. I'm like, well, but that's not getting you to the full contribution limit. And sometimes they don't realize that. So be aware of what those are. If your age is 60 to 63, there's even an additional catch-up amount that you can put in. So be cognizant of that. So take advantage of these little loopholes that the federal government's allowing you to save more money. And then there's obviously always just a brokerage account. That's an after-tax account that's taxable, but there's no limit on how much you can put in there, and you can use that for retirement as well. It's just another account to pull from. It's just taxed differently than maybe a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. There's a few taxation differences, but it's just another pot of money to pull from that you can really put significant savings away.
Yeah, and beyond that, I guess with this generation having so many challenges, I know there's been a lot of people that have taken on quite a bit of debt, right? And a lot of that consumer debt too. And I know being a guy that's been close with Dave Ramsey, fought a lot of those principles. I know paying off that debt is so important to you. And look, I know it's not easy. I know it's not something you want to do, but getting ruthless about paying off that debt right now can be critical for being able to step away and retire.
It is. Eliminating debt is probably should be the biggest goal you should have, other than savings rate, is probably paying that debt off sooner. Because again, when you get to retirement, you have a pretty much a fixed income, if you will. You got Social Security, maybe you have a pension, but it's usually your nest egg is producing that income. And yeah, you want to inflate it a little bit each year with inflation, 3, 4, 5%. So it's not technically fixed, but you know what I mean. There's only a certain amount coming in that you really can take out. So getting rid of the debt. So it's a math equation at that point. It's a math problem. So if your overhead expenses are a lot less, it's only going to help you out from an income standpoint. That Social Security check goes a lot further if you don't have a house payment, if you don't have a car payment, credit cards, whatever that may be, paying off student loans for your kids. I mean, getting rid of that is huge. So the less guaranteed overhead expense you have coming out every single month, the easier retirement is, 100%. Now, if you're just at a point where you can't pay your house off, I get it. You don't want to be cash poor and have a house paid off. That's where I pull back the reins on that a little bit. Is yeah, we want to have a paid for house, but again, you don't want to be cash poor at the same time. So you need to have a plan for that, but really try to eliminate as much debt as possible, if not all, before you retire.
So debt, get rid of that. And look, if you feel like you're behind, and Northwestern Mutual reports that Gen Xers expect to need around 1.07 million. Again, just kind of a ballpark. Your situation could be higher or lower, but you're going to need about we'll call it 1.1 million to retire comfortably. But they project that most Gen Xers are only going to have around 600,000, which leaves a big gap of almost about $500,000, right, to fill in. So I know that there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the Gen X generation, but now is a great time, I think, to get creative with income too. If you feel like you're behind, there's so many ways right now to make up that extra income and add a little bit more into the pot for savings down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see where they get all these numbers from their studies. But yeah, like you said, it's it's going to be different for everybody. I got clients that retire on way less than 1.1 million, and some need way more than 1.1 million. But I get it's a general study. They get this data from somewhere. But I mean, yeah, there is so many, like you say, like side hustles or semi-retirement or working, because so many people now have skill sets that new generations don't have coming up through. It's just different. So I have a lot of clients that maybe they're engineers or construction in the construction world, and they have a very niche market of what they know. So a lot of people, there's such a valuable asset that they'll say, okay, if you're going to retire, that's fine, but can we hire you as an independent contractor for 20, 30 hours a week? So almost all of my clients have that option. Now, some people just say, nope, I'm good. I'm done. I don't want to work anymore, which is fine. That's respectable. And if they have enough to create an income they need, great. But some people have that option, and people are living now so much longer, and they're cognizant, their mental skills are lasting so much longer as well. So they want to stay engaged. They want to stay involved. They want to have a purpose. And so those side hustles, if you will, or independent contract work is an easy way to bridge that gap to make retirement a whole lot easier.
Well, the last thing to kind of close out this conversation then is, look, we want to take the guesswork out of retirement planning. If you are, feeling behind, you're not alone, right? I mean, that's kind of the point of this conversation is there are a lot of Gen Xers that maybe feel a little bit behind and maybe don't have a complete plan for retirement yet. But again, that's where an advisor comes in. The team of Black Oak Asset Management can help you work through these things. I know you can run a lot of the numbers, Ryan. You can look at trade-offs. You can optimize different plans. Obviously, tax is a big part of that. There's so much that goes into this that an advisor can help you with to maybe eliminate, not completely eliminate some of that anxiety and worry, but instill more confidence in where you're headed.
Yeah, I mean, because we want to paint as clear a picture as possible. So, I mean, we're going to ask a ton of questions, a lot of detail on, Social Security benefits, details of your investments. So we want to put this all into our planning software. And that way we can run so many different scenarios. What does it look like if we retire at 67 versus 70 or 66? And we can run those scenarios, and we can just push toggle bars, and that it shows you your success rate. So there's a good bit of work on the front end, but once that data is all entered and it's crystal clear, we can change that stuff up, and we keep that updated so that way it paints a clear picture on what your retirement is going to look like from an income standpoint, but also a tax standpoint, since we at least know the next kind of 4 years, if you will. So, and a lot of people can run this, maybe look at it on a spreadsheet and make heads or tails of it, but there's a lot of variables that a spreadsheet's not taken into consideration. So that's where we would come into play. Or again, another advisory team. There's a lot of good ones out there, but you want to have that very technical, high-level software that paints those pictures and scenarios for you that give you that peace of mind of whether it's a doable thing to retire when you want to, or maybe later, or do part-time work. We can run those scenarios to give you an idea of what you need to do.
Again, go to speakwithryan.com to take advantage of that initial conversation, sit down with him, begin talking about some of these things. But if you are a Gen Xer, now's the time, right? It's hard to believe we are here, but we've survived recessions. We've survived AOL dial-up, parenting in the age of smartphones. There's a lot of challenges. A lot of technology has brought a lot onto our plate. But we want to make sure that we are prepared and take control of that next chapter of our lives, which is retirement. Maybe it's just, we'll call it the next remix. Ryan, about that. All right, let's close it out. Appreciate that. Again, thanks for watching Perfect Game Retirement. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hopefully this episode has been helpful for you. We'll have more videos coming. We hope to see you again soon.